This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free.
This is Cajun.
And we're episode 208.
North to Alaska. We're going north to Rush. It's on S. It's gold rush time.
That's right.
Johnny Horton. Listen to that.
Absolutely.
And
love
we
it.
are.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert,
And I'm Francis.
I'm Marcus.
And I'm Cajun.
as he said. And we have in the studio today.
And I am
Fred.
Andre.
Yes, thank you.
An extra guest.
Extra guest. Thank you.
6.
Andre the Giant.
Yes. So, Brother Andre here has decided to join us, graciously so, and he's been a fan of the show for some time.
Absolutely. That's right.
And good friend of Francis and I. I have known Brother Andre for 15 years now.
That's something.
Quite
We go
some
way
time.
back.
Way back. But oddly enough, you're my newest friend here.
Yeah. By a long shot.
By a long shot, yes. Anyways, so sorry to talk over the captain there.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're a little backwards anyway today.
That's all right. That's all
But
right.
it works. But now we're going to be talking about the gold rush and several other things. You've got silver, copper, and so forth, and the effects it had on this country and the exploration west, and just how much it drove it and changed basically the economy of this country, I would say. I mean, we ended up with a lot of price gouging going on during these events by some people.
That's the interesting part of a gold rush and what the Spanish found when they were basically over here just pillaging everything is you're not really making yourself rich. You're actually just printing more money.
Well, it's
Kind of like today.
those who end up with a lion's share of the new money. Really, the main effect is to make everybody else poorer.
You're right.
Well,
Because it's inflation.
It's
Yes.
inflationary. It drives prices up. You're just printing more money.
Yeah.
It happened to the Romans. You know, they would lower the silver content of the denarius and think they were doing something for the economy, but all they did was just drive prices up.
Yep.
It's kind of amazing too. This is a continuation of our manifest destiny stuff that we've been talking about, and it makes people crazy. And I think that that's one of the big lessons of this is the human species can be tracked by its madness. shall
Gold
we say?
fever.
Yeah, that's
Well,
correct.
But
That's what
gold fever.
we have the same fevers nowadays. We have the stock market, the day traders.
Oh, yes.
That's true. We just don't. It
We
doesn't
have
cause
the options
migrations.
market. We have Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Technology in
and
general.
everything else.
Well, that's
Yeah.
right. Now we have global technology that doesn't require relocation.
Well, and the worst part though about the modern versions of the gold rush is that none of it's real.
No.
The stock
there's no
market.
Well, at least not
species.
physical.
Again, it's not tangible.
Yeah.
That's right.
You can say the
This is
stock
true.
market is because you can get physical stock certificates, but it's still paper. And
It's
even
agreed upon value, but then again, all of it is.
all as I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
it's
all
all-
of it
Yeah,
is
even gold is really
Even
just
gold.
an agreed upon.
It's just a shiny rock.
right.
Yeah,
There
and
is
for
no
s-
inherent value in any of it.
Because you can't eat it,
No, that's why lead is more valuable. You can use it to get something to eat.
Well, that's correct.
That's very true.
This is true.
Although you can't eat lead, that will definitely
Well,
be
you
a problem.
can.
You'll just
but
have two
One
heads.
should not.
you
That's
one
correct.
should.
Yeah, but one shouldn't. Yes.
Yeah.
So, real quick, because we forgot to mention, we are in a new location in Studio F here. At the
Yes,
Baxter
that's
Building.
right.
The Baxter, we're in the lobby of the Baxter building rather than Johnny's game room
Well, that's
or,
right. Well,
or
it's
Reed's lab.
much more expansive down here. We just, Her Majesty and I have finally done a remodel of the place. We're
And
sitting.
it looks very nice, by the way. The flooring, I love.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
It's I have to get her to listen to the episode. She's snoring in the other room actually, which I'm
Oh,
surprised.
well, now you can't get her to listen to the episode.
No. She's we love our dear wife, and she can sleep as long as she wants because she's wonderful.
Yes, but you just said she snores.
I meant that metaphorically. She doesn't really
It's
snore.
metaphorically.
She purrs.
The point being,
Oh, Lord.
the house looks awesome,
Yeah.
and we're very, very comfortable kicking it here in the lobby of the Baxter building.
Oh
So,
yeah.
We have some secret hand signals going on here
Sorry.
between Marcus and Francis here. I think he's flirting.
No, actually, I was admiring the beautiful blonde floors and then watched something crawl across it.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay.
But
sorry,
the reason I was admiring the blonde floors is I happen to have a very nice blonde kitten at the house that would match this very well.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
We can bring him over.
No, I
he's
don't
wonderful, very
I'm
sweet
sure.
cat.
Is this the one that jumped on you and sent you to the hospital?
No, that was another one.
I was going to say that was a little. Kitten doesn't seem.
That's the dark.
No, actually, she was the smallest of our cats at the time.
Really?
Put me in intensive care.
I remember, yes, very well. It was.
Yeah, I've got a nice picture of me on a ventilator.
That's when you reinvented the catapult.
Yeah.
You would have it had
no,
you
I
not.
didn't get a chance.
I was going to say, yeah, she took you out too quickly. Yes.
Battle cat.
Battle cat.
Yeah,
Yes.
love it. Absolutely. Hey, who doesn't love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe? Come on, we are of that age, gentlemen. We should remember those.
I was never a huge fan of He-Man.
Really? I mean,
That was a touch after our cartoon watching days.
we were in
though.
college. I watched it every afternoon when I was in college. You watched that. You watched G.I. Joe. You watched
I'd kind of
Thundercats.
given up watching cartoons.
No, I'll give you one better. Thundercats.
Absolutely, Thundercats.
Thundercats,
Chitara.
ho!
Absolutely. This was the time when all that stuff was coming around. J. Michael Straczynski was the writer, actually. of
Well,
He-Man.
Jack Kirby had a hand in a good number of those.
Absolutely.
He-Man
That's right.
and Thundercats.
Very much so.
He had a
This is
hand in.
this is one of the
All right. We're way off track now.
Yeah.
Bring it back in.
down
bring
the
it back
damn
in.
rabbit hole we go. All it takes is just
Okay.
a slip.
We
and we're
really
there.
need to get Rabbit Hole to sponsor the
Yes,
show.
Rabbit Hole
Yes.
Distillery should sponsor us for these rabbit
All
holes.
right, we probably should start on the East Coast on this, and Marcus was
Yes.
giving us several examples, starting off on the East Coast earlier. Maybe he'd like to elaborate where some of these rushes started.
There was a young 12-year-old boy in the Carolinas who was wandering through a creek near his parents' farm, or on his parents' farm, and stumbled upon a nice gold rock. Apparently close to 17 pounds of it. And the family used it as a doorstop for a number of years. Until Dad happened to show it to someone who was a jeweler at the time, and the jeweler recognized it as gold and offered him the tidy sum of around $7, which would be about $71 nowadays, for this large gold nugget. And once word got out, then it started with the Carolina Gold Rush, which lasted.
And this would be the late 18th century, right?
late
Late 1700s?
1799.
Right, that's
up through 1840 when it started to trail off. And that's when they started exploring further west for more gold.
Which is interesting that it took that long after the country is founded as a country,
Yeah.
because the original Western Hemisphere gold rush, as we talked about in the show prep, was in
Brazil and
Mexico,
South
Brazil,
America.
South
Yeah, the
America.
Incas.
Yeah.
The Aztecs had some, but the Incas were
Incas
the
had it too.
real ones.
Yes, the Spaniards took as much gold as they could back to Spain.
Well, which reminds us of that great video game we played back in college, Seven Cities of Gold.
Oh, yes, Seven Cities of Gold.
Oh, yes. We'll take your gold and leave you several diseases to wipe you out. You know, nice fair trade there.
Yes.
Well, it has the added benefit of not only taking your gold, but also clearing the land for when you come back.
But I mean, it's the same. It's the same concept of with going out to the Sierra Nevadas for the third part of the gold rush, the one after Georgia, and on that trip you died of dysentery.
Yeah, just like you were a medieval soldier. You had to
The Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then there's, of course, the gold rush that everybody thinks about in this country, anyways, is the California gold rush. That's
Sutter's Mill.
That's the big one.
that's the big one.
1849.
But there's also the Black Hills.
The Black Hills,
And
the
that's kind of
Klondikes.
sad.
Yeah,
That's
I mean-
sad there. We relocate the Native Americans to the Black Hills. They find their gold there. Well, let's move them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's surprising we didn't move them after they found oil in all the places they've been on. Or, hey, that's an awful nice casino there. Maybe we should move you out of there too,
I think
It
we're
might
trying
come.
that in a few
Yes.
states.
So, yeah, I mean, this country has a horrible history of such things.
Commandeering what doesn't exactly belong to you just because you want it, maybe.
Well, I mean,
The infamous Trail of Tears was a result of the foundation of gold in one of the rushes.
well, that's exactly right. Yeah, because that's in the Carolinas.
Carolinas,
Moving, out of Florida and Georgia.
Yeah.
which is-
Excellent book to read, too, if you've never read it, Trail of Tears. Excellent book documenting all that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest shames of us as Americans, and Andrew Jackson gets the blame for it. Not sure that's completely
No, it's
deserved.
It's not entirely.
It's entirely deserved.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I know that.
Yes, but I mean,
know
I
that Martin
don't think it's entirely solely his.
Correct.
There's a lot of blame to go around.
Yeah.
He definitely gets the blame. I'm not saying.
I
he
mean,
doesn't.
yeah.
There's
go
a
ahead,
lot
go
of
ahead,
blame
Martin,
to
because
go
I know that you. I know this
Well,
is
I
an issue
just,
for you.
I mean, I'm not a Jackson fan.
Yeah,
There was
right.
a lot of it's one thing to be this man of the people and portray yourself as
Old
this,
hickory knot.
the Westerner and all that, and
General.
common man. But he was a huge, yes, slavery is never going away.
Right, vile racist,
Oh,
to
yeah.
use your term. Yeah.
And then the Indian relocation, that was like, he didn't care. Relocate, die, whatever. Get him out of there.
Which was not uncommon across the general board at that day and time. I mean, they were
Right.
seen as an enemy, basically, wherever
Yeah.
exploration was pushing out towards.
Right, and to be fair, I mean, not to necessarily calling it fair, but to point out
Yeah.
what happened in this country, it sticks out as like, oh, this is just the most horrible sin ever. It's the same thing that happened everywhere else.
Everywhere.
That's right.
If you go back far enough, it happened in Europe. It had,
That's right.
they worship a different tree than us. Let's move them out of that land.
Exactly.
whatever
Well,
means
back to
necessary.
the Womans,
Yeah.
'cause they were
But
the,
we carried on that tradition all the way through, the 1940s with internment camps.
I'm not saying we didn't. I'm just pointing out that
yeah.
people act today like this is something unique to
Oh,
us.
no.
It is not.
It's
No,
not.
We are
and,
just the latest in a long line of such things.
but
Oh,
then,
yeah.
and like you said with the Romans,
Human
they
beings
come
are-
in, but then they would adapt that civilization into the empire and
Yes,
become
they
part
probably-
of the empire. That so they took it one step better to their benefit.
yeah, eventually,
Gave
That
those
is true.
people something of value.
eventually you
even though
became a citizen over time, and that gave you benefits.
That's
and
right.
privileges.
Hail the empire.
Hail the
Empire.
empire.
That's part of empire building, is to incorporate the people that you take in their traditions. That way they don't want to leave and rebel, because it's part of their traditions are remaining.
Make the world roam in many respects.
And we did not learn that lesson here with the Native Americans.
nor
by any means.
Nor did the British and most of the Europeans during the colonialism period, because they were
yeah.
under
Right.
subjugation.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
Brits were notorious for
Yeah,
you're not worth putting the effort into.
which
Well,
which leads
And
me
we
back.
carried that tradition on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
We did. Part of it goes back to, it really is a form of the vile racism, because
that's what I was going to go with.
where
yeah.
we did not do it, where the Brits did not do it, is where they did not look like us.
That's exactly it,
Yeah.
and that's why. And I'm curious if you guys think that is the way the Native Americans worked here. Were they in your opinion, were they considered subhuman or invaders? Perhaps both. I'm not sure.
I
I
think
don't know
just
about invaders. but-
inconvenient.
Inconvenient.
Obstacles.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Obstacles,
whereas
yeah, that's
the
a great word.
Africans, the black,
Yeah.
they were considered subhuman by
They were,
law
yes.
eventually because of the slavery issue. The Native Americans weren't treated that way. I mean, not to say that.
Yes, they were.
Well, but they weren't enslaved.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
they
we,
were
we
to a
took
degree.
we took a different approach.
Well,
What
that's
we did-
what I'm trying to point out. Is
we
that
took their children away and put them into orphanages.
well, that's correct. And
And tried to make them white.
Yes.
So it's an attempt at. So they were close enough that you could convert, whereas the black race was not considered that. See, I'm trying to show out the vileness of this entire.
Well, I
concept
think
here.
with the native population, there was also a history of alliance.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
they were seen as convenient allies until they weren't.
Yeah, all the way back
Exactly.
to Plymouth Rock. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you know, so the Brits and the French always,
Well, French and
try to
Indian War,
enroll
that's-
them as scouts and aides, and well, here's some trinkets, be on our side. And then when they were inconvenient because we needed the land, it was, well, you guys don't really own it. You're just wandering around in it. Here, we'll give you something, and you can have this land that's farther away.
Yeah.
And it just,
Take the useless land like Oklahoma.
yeah,
Exactly.
it just sort of,
until we find what we want on it.
Exactly.
yeah, until you're inconvenient.
Or under it.
Well, yeah.
So,
Well, I'm just curious why that was different. And is it because, and this is going to hit Martin where he lives, is because they were armed at one point?
well, I think that
They were capable of armed resistance.
there was, yes, that's part of it. The Africans were captured,
Correct.
and the
And
natives
enslaved
were
as-
never really captured.
Yeah, they
and so
were-
there was a tiny bit of, there was always sort of this noble, savage kind
Right.
of.
And
I mean, it's paternalistic portrayal.
Well, and
but just a
the
different
relationship
one.
wasn't always antagonistic.
right.
You know, I mean, when you look at the story of the pilgrims who come over, and the first story of Thanksgiving, which is total the way it's generally taught is total BS.
Oh, yeah.
But there was an element of cooperation at times. They got along. Other times they most certainly did not.
Yeah.
So it also depends on which tribe of Native Americans.
I'm glad you brought that up, because even today, and I've done some work with many of the Native Americans over the years, and they resist, rightfully so, being clumped together in any fashion.
Yes.
I am a Blackfoot. I am an Apache. I am a Comanche. Whatever that tribe is, it is that diversity is something they very much want to hold on to, because there's an enormous plurality of customs and methodologies and all sorts of stuff like that.
Oh, yes. I mean, there's a major difference between the Cherokee here and the Apache or the Comanche out west.
Correct.
Yes,
Two
very much.
totally different. And, one thing that we feared, too, where did we learn guerrilla warfare? That we used in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, we learned it from the Native Americans.
Absolutely.
basically.
That's correct.
Very much.
So we had
Mohawks.
reason to fear what we learned from them and used successfully ourselves to help gain independence.
Yes.
And I think part of the difference between the way African, blacks were treated or Africans were treated, and the Native Americans were the fact that the blacks were owned.
That's right. That's
They were property.
absolutely.
They were.
And the
Absolutely.
Indians,
Captured. Yeah.
the Indians weren't property.
That's exactly what I'm just looking at how we could be so evil in two separate, different ways, and yet those things never really coalesced.
In
It's
current day America, there's a great example. We're talking about building walls on the southern border because of the mass influx of illegal immigrants. If we look at the number of illegal immigrants in America, we would be revolting against Canadians, because there's more illegal Canadian immigrants than there are anybody else as of a couple years ago. But they look like us, so we're not quick to throw them out.
Which goes back to that
Can you
original
quote a
premise.
source for that, Andre? Because I'm not saying you're wrong, but given the amount of the population in Canada, and given the something on the order of
20 million Mexican or
I've heard
Hispanics,
I've heard 10 to
Africans.
15.
Yeah.
I can't, but I'll find it.
Mexican South America these days, I mean, it's been a vast migration up
Yeah.
this way lately.
But I'm perfectly willing to start going after the Canadians. I mean, that round bacon and that weather.
It's ham, damn it, it's ham.
They're going to need to go back where they came from.
With their damn beady eyes.
Well,
and
maybe
flappy
I should have
heads.
started saying collage at the beginning of this, and we should have retitled this episode, because we've gotten way off
Yeah, we're
course.
not-
with
we're
So I
not.
want to get
Gold
back
Rush.
to California, because
Yes.
Yeah.
that is the one everybody thinks of.
And Alaska. I'd say
And
both
Alaska.
of those
Yeah,
hold
Alaska.
very big
Klondike
prominence.
and everything.
Yeah, so I want to do Alaska as well, but California, of course, the they stumble across gold at this little settlement, Sutter's Mill, and originally it's like the Mr. Sutter, who owned the place, was like, keep this quiet because that'll destroy my land. He wanted to have a farm, a mill, and that was seen as the real gold of California, as the agricultural potential.
Right.
Long term, it is.
It still is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very,
And
very fertile.
this
land.
is before California's a state. But everything, this is what's interesting. It happened so fast. The word got out because the guy that they sent to, I guess it's whatever the capital was at the time, or to the officials, whatever government officials there were. And they were kind of operating under, well, are we under Mexican law? Are we under U.S. law? What are we doing here? And it's all at the same time of the Mexican-American War, and we were like, well, you lose, so we're taking all your stuff. And it's just this crazy all at once that there's, 5,000 people in California, and then 6 months later there's 100,000.
Yeah.
And there's enough to have
95 of them are at Sutter's Mill.
yeah, and so just take over the whole place. But what's interesting, again, in this immediate moment of figuring out letting California in as a state, is the Compromise of 1850, and California writes their own constitution, sends it to Washington. We want to be a state, and we want to be a no slavery state.
Right.
Yes.
And that's with Southerners moving there
Sure.
and becoming part of this group that's writing the Constitution for the state and wants it to be a state. They wanted it to be a no slavery state.
Yeah.
And
But it's an interesting point, because you're right. The Southerners who've moved there, who no slavery, it's not necessarily that they were abolitionists, right? It's probably just because they were the poor white folks.
That's
that
right.
Were
well, and it's not suited.
well,
Because
yes.
it's not suited to cotton. It's not suited to tobacco.
Right. So, and that's kind of my point.
So it would have been pointless to have them anyway.
Exactly my point. Yeah.
Where they found it, though, in the Sierra Nevadas, it's right on the edge of what we consider the Nevada border towards Reno area and what have you. Very inhospitable country. Growing stuff is a bear. And what you ended up having was those that were pro-slavery in California moved with one of the next gold rushes into Oregon, and the state of Oregon was formed specifically with the intent to allow slavery.
Right, to keep that balance.
To keep that.
Yeah.
And, so it influenced a lot of different things as we moved with these gold migrations. The entire reason why California was even accepted in was the fact that it was considered valuable for the gold.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of money you can tax out of that.
There is.
Yeah, and then again, you go to this compromise of 1850 and Henry Clay and figuring out slavery, and does this undo 1820 and the Fugitive Slave Act? And it turns it, like you said, with Oregon and trying to balance all this out, and it turns into a giant mess that makes everything worse.
So what we're saying is the discovery of gold in California accelerated the Civil War.
It absolutely did.
Yes.
It absolutely did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it's only 10 years,
Well, it breaks all of the things that were, I don't necessarily say keeping a balance, but kind of keeping everything in a crappy equilibrium that it was, and it destroyed the equilibrium.
Yeah.
Well, that whole, all those debates that they had and everything else with all those negotiations, I'm sure the politicians and the people in the South were looking at that going, what are they going to screw with next?
Well, yeah,
what are they going to do to us?
Yes.
That's why the Kansas and Nebraska Act comes out. That's why Stephen Douglas decides, no, this is not enough. We have to assert our independence, our rights.
Authority.
Exactly right.
And Clay is dead. Calhoun is dead. Webster's dead.
And all that entire, and it's even deeper than that, I think, because those three men, for lack of a better term, very much understood the necessity of compromise to keep everything together. And the new generation after them, Douglas and the rest of them, screw that.
Compromise became a dirty word.
That's correct, which is kind of something.
Well, that's where we are today.
We live
Exactly.
today.
We're living in that post time.
But you know what? There comes a time when compromise is a dirty word, because compromise perpetuated chattel slavery.
Yes.
Well, you're right. It goes back
you
to
can
that.
make the argument that maybe things worked out in the best possible way, and that as few people died as possible. We'll never know that. Could it have been worse if the rupture had happened earlier? Could it have been worse if the rupture happened later? I don't know. But either way, we do know that perpetuating the spread of slavery.
With hindsight, we see it as inevitable.
Yes.
But in the moment, at the time, Webster and Clay especially felt like as long as we keep the Union together,
we can work anything out.
Well,
that's our best bet to have slavery die on the vine.
Well, it also keeps the status quo for them as well.
Well, yeah, because Calhoun thought the same thing for the opposite reasons. He thought we can continue to perpetuate slavery if we can keep things compromised, if we can just get them to leave us alone and let us do our thing, let them do their thing. That's Calhoun's preference.
Yeah, and Calhoun was unrealistic.
Well, yeah, and Jefferson Davis is the same way. He was remade.
Well, again, I think that's a hindsight thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we've got that benefit of all those.
Because obviously, when you look at 20 years later after the Civil War, you've got the cotton gin, you've got all these other advancements that make slavery. Because slavery, up into a certain point,
originally, it's not super economically viable. It's not until the processing of cotton through the gin.
That's when slavery becomes absolutely a economically horrible way to do things. Obviously, morally, it's always a horrible way to do things.
Exactly.
But economically, it doesn't make sense without the automation.
Yeah. And that's what makes growing and harvesting cotton worthwhile, that you can dump it into this thing.
It's too labor intensive otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know the Civil War kind of broke the country up, but in a sense, between different sections and parts. But I'm going to take and put out there that the gold rush to California helped bring the country together in a commerce sort of way. It set the lines up for major commerce going from the east all the way to the west coast that just built and doubled, and the railroads grew and so forth, because it's a long way to take a ship all the way around from the east side of the United States to the west side. So in a lot of ways, we had a huge commerce boost here when all this happened.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because otherwise, there's nothing out there. Yeah. Everything's on the east. There's nothing on the other side. But California,
it's a very good point, because it drives
Migration.
maritime, then migration. It drives the idea of a canal at the isthmus.
Yeah.
So, and that's not. I mean, people always want to think every element of capitalism is exploitative, but this really grew everything.
And it helped settle the country, too. I mean, there's a lot of people headed out that way that never made it that far for various reasons.
Yeah. But it built everything up.
When we talk about capitalism, we have to be clear about this, because what most people think of as capitalism is really a market economy. Capitalism, which is under the strict definition, is that laissez-faire kind of approach to things. And
it's even more simple than that, though.
Go ahead.
Preach it, brother.
It's trading lower valued assets for higher valued assets.
That's a market economy. That's my point. Because the market is, especially when you talk about capitalism in that sense, because it really much is about trading goods. It's about people creating businesses, doing stuff.
The free exchange of something I value less to you for something you value, and I value it.
And that sort of
I got a $2 shovel. You give me $20 worth of gold, so you can go dig more gold.
Exactly. But I mean, that sort of thing has been around far longer than the concept of capitalism. So markets are a component of capitalism,
and everything's a market.
And pretty much everything is a market. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, capitalism as in, money, because that's what capital is, generally speaking, and there's also labor. But I mean, the manipulation of things at that level and that laissez-faire attitude, that's the unbridled capitalism. Because very few people, even I dare say Martin, would not go for totally unbridled, unregulated
as long as there were an understanding that once you sign a contract, you live up to it.
And that takes the law.
And that takes the law,
to back it up.
It does. Yeah. As a big P.J. O'Rourke fan, I'm a huge fan of his writings on China at the time of the handover. And Hong Kong being that enclave that's seen as a laissez-faire thing, but O'Rourke's position was it takes a lot of law and administration to make laissez-faire work.
Yeah, there's an irony for you. Right.
So it's not like it was a free-for-all in Hong Kong, but it was you were free to enter into agreements, contractual agreements with anyone else, and exchange goods and services.
I like to point out that the only true capitalism that you'll find is the black market.
Yes.
Well, that's true, and you understand the results of that, because the consumer always loses there, whereas in
maybe not always, but often.
Not
you have to have a savvy consumer to come out good with the black market.
Price is simply information,
right?
And as long as you got what you wanted for a price you were willing to pay, there's nothing to complain about. If you don't want to pay that price, then you don't have to have that thing. Yeah. Now, where black markets get completely screwed up is, when a government sets a price for something artificially low.
Right. Wage and price controls.
But all a black market is it's just the information of what something is really actually worth. Well, rather than a government set price.
Well, there's often that's based on what people are willing to pay.
But there's often an element of price gouging in a black market.
Absolutely, and the wealthy always do well in that, because it's
and
easy.
That's the key. That's why you don't set prices, because those who can afford can pay any price don't care.
Well, that's
Exactly.
and therein lies part of the problem and one of the moral issues about that, because it's okay if you're talking about you're negotiating on a luxury item, things like that, but when you start talking about basic human subsistence, and we can argue what that means, when
When a head of cabbage
Bread.
costs the equivalent of $500,
that's correct.
That's a problem.
That's right. That's one of the problems with the market that you're talking about here is there's nothing to prevent those with wealth, power, etc., from preventing. The market can go wild depending on supply and demand, and there's a moral duty that government has at a point like that on certain items and certain things to prevent the ability of the poor to starve.
Toilet paper.
and
Toilet paper is a great example. That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
but
and-
what I'm talking about is the difference being what's the approach government should take.
well, obviously the manner and how that is done is what is
Yeah.
open for debate.
Well, that's right.
Do
Because
they make it worse, or by stepping aside, can they make it better?
it's not a black. I don't think it's an either
It's
or.
exactly right.
It's not an either or.
It depends on the circumstances, and that's what it always comes down to. Because otherwise, you're going to find yourself waiting in line for toilet paper like they did in the Soviet Union.
and
A few years ago.
Well, they didn't
right.
even
You
have
You could be an
toilet paper.
innovator
Yeah.
and create the bidet, and then make the toilet paper market
bidets are
irrelevant.
just evil. Come on, man.
Hey, I got a whole supply of corn cobs. I'll sell them to you for $50 for a 50-pound bag.
And that's an interesting
That's-
point because
That's an entrepreneur.
I want to use that to circle back around to our topic of the day, because the gold rushes very much create the equivalent of a black market.
Very much so.
Yeah,
Because there is because if you think about where all the gold rushes happen, they're almost always in places that are not yet states, that have very little law, almost no regulation.
Right. And again, that was a huge part of what happened in California. 'Cause
Yes.
They're trying to figure out does Mexican law apply here? Does American law?
Well, and-
we're militarily occupied Mexican
Or do we
territory.
agree with like Deadwood is a great example. Of the
Yes,
TV
I was gonna
series.
go, that's
I
the
know that's where you're
perfect
going. Yeah.
example of it.
Yeah, because it's basically whatever we agree on, but nobody tells us what to do.
Yes. Well, I mean,
Because there's no structure there.
Another thing that you have to consider with all of these gold rushes is because of the technology for mining at the time, which was rather simplistic, either hoses washing away off the hillsides
Right.
and what have you. All these gold rushes are very short lived.
especially for the individual.
Yeah.
the individual
Well, for
seeker.
the individual, yes. But
Yeah.
I mean, the California gold rush started in 48, was over with in Northern California by 55. And
Well,
then they
yeah.
kept moving further and further out still.
Well, until you get to the point where you're mining as opposed to
Until-
sifting the river.
Yeah,
Exactly.
panning for gold.
That's
which,
where-
which was
yeah.
relatively recent.
When you move from the sluicing and the panning to
Yeah.
Large scale mining.
yeah, companies that are blasting and really bringing in heavy equipment. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's where the real
A good
the real
example
money
of that
is.
Industrialization.
Visually speaking, is the movie Pale Rider. You remember that's one of the things that that is going on.
They're pressure washing.
Pressure washing, that sort of thing.
Pressure
like there.
washing
And
the
it really,
sides, yes.
it illustrated very visually just what exploitation.
All right. Let's take a break here. It's about that time, and maybe I can get you monkeys back on track here after the break.
That's right. It's time for bourbon break.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Oh, my ice has melted. Oh, my goodness. I'm hoping this bloometh out very, very well. I don't even remember what I poured, actually. No, I do remember what I poured.
We all poured the same thing, didn't we?
No, not all of us. But I want to make a shout out to Brother Andre over here because he has brought us an amazingly good bottle of Colonel E.H. Taylor.
this is
A
kinda
note to
holy.
all you listeners out there: if you want to brab your way into the,
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you were gonna say where to get it.
if you want to brab your way into the sessions here, buy a good bourbon and offer it.
That's right. We'll have you a microphone set up, and you can come on in. Yeah,
That's
and
right.
it's-
Locally, E.H. Taylor's one of those like holy grail ones that's on allocation, and hardly any of the big stores have it.
It's right.
Right,
But
right.
you know, and thank God for Andre. He's figured out.
Yes,
He's got him.
he has found a source.
He's a connection. He's a connected guy, and his bounty he has brought with us here, and that's what I'm working on right now. I had some spherical ice. I didn't make enough of it, but I did have enough for at least for us to trial that, and that's what I'm Martin, you just downed what you had. Is that what you're drinking?
Yes, the E.H. Taylor.
That's it.
Well,
I want to get. I want to get
still
it.
got some then, so I can sniff.
Yeah,
Pass that around to Marcus.
pass that around to the Emperor so he can.
I got to stick my nose into this since I don't imbibe.
And folks, you can't see it, but that's a heck of a snozzer.
It is
That
a beak.
is.
I do have
Heck of a
an
schnoz
ample
there.
beak.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Jimmy Durante would be proud.
I want to get a little Cajun input with his taste buds, but E.H. Taylor, awesome citrus.
Oh yeah, smooth,
Mellow.
buttery. Do you get
Yeah,
that?
I can see that.
I don't get butter, but
I think that's in the finish.
There's some anise or
It's in the
licorice in
finish.
behind the
That's
citrus.
the finish. Yeah.
there you go.
And it's got a lubricity. I love that word. It's a Martin word, but I have to use it. It's a
Word boner.
yeah, absolutely. It's got that finish. You're exactly right. It is unique. It is very
Yeah.
unique.
That's
It very much.
high end shit.
Yeah, you definitely get that citrus early, even before you let it
Yeah,
bloom with the ice.
it's
Mine
in the
was
air.
fully bloomed when I drank
And
it.
I'm
so-
getting a bit of cherry on the backside of it too.
really.
I can see that.
Oh, excellent.
I can see that.
Well done. Yeah.
I'll have to take another drink when the Emperor hands it back to me. And I sit
It
back
definitely
behind
has
that.
a nice sweetness
Yeah.
to go with that citrus up front, and it does have a really nice finish. Because it's interesting because a lot of bourbons it only hits you in one place or the other. A lot of them will hit you in the mouth with that Kentucky kiss, sometimes into the sinuses. You get a lot of that initial flavor in the mouth, obviously.
Definitely.
But it does have a nice finish with a nice Kentucky hug going down the
Nice and
throat.
warm without
Yeah.
burning.
Without burning,
I didn't get a whole lot of that. Most
No,
of mine
it's-
stayed in my mouth.
It's got
It's a slow
Yeah.
burn.
Mine is fully bloomed.
It kind
Mine
of
is
creeps on down, but yeah, I'm getting that cherry on the tongue well after that.
Yeah.
It has
Hug
an
goes
interesting
past.
spice mix to it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like
What's
bacon
the mash
spices.
bill on
Kind of like an
Anybody know?
allspice almost. It's not.
Yes.
It's like a mixture.
Yeah, it is. But I'm getting a touch of ginger, perhaps.
That's interesting.
And yes, I agree with you on that. It's kind of an all-spicy kind of thing. That particular mix of spices.
Does anybody know what the mash bill on this is?
No.
idea.
We'd have to.
I mean, I'm sure it's available online somewhere. It is a Buffalo Trace product. That's good though. I mean, it's really. I see why it's hard to get because it
Yeah,
is
I
really
mean,
good.
and you're not a Buffalo Trace fan, as a general rule.
Well, that particular bourbon.
that particular bourbon, not the the
yeah, but the
distillery's fine.
distillery, has several brands.
Yeah, no, I'd consider that quite a good.
Yeah,
good
this is
bourbon.
certainly one of the best that we've done. I would think. Very much
It's
so.
the shit, yo.
Very well put though. Kudos
It's
to
well put together.
kudos to Brother Andre for
It
bringing
is.
that
And
in.
now this is what was it? An 89 proof? Somebody said.
101, I thought.
No, that's
no,
what
that's what you've got. The
which
Wild Turkey
Andre is not
101.
drinking what he brought. You've got something different.
Yes.
I have the Wild Turkey 101.
So let's hear your thoughts on it because we've talked about it on the show before. I'm interested to hear your.
Have we
thoughts
had the
on it.
101 on the show or just regular Wild Turkey and Long Branch?
We have had 101 because this is my second bottle.
Okay.
And when we trounced the other one some time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, you can't go wrong with any Wild Turkey.
Well,
They're all good.
We had the wild turkey right before we started in on the Old Foresters.
That's
if I
correct.
remember
And that's
correctly.
kind of the one that we just blew through it. We I think
Yeah.
Okay, the E.H. Taylor is a 4-grain mash bill.
Okay.
Corn, rye, wheat, and malted barley. So they're not saying what the exact amounts are for.
That's
each
kind of
one.
unusual because you don't usually do rye and wheat. So
No, it's one of their rare. It's a select for each E.H. Taylor.
You know, that malted barley is showing up quite a bit.
Well,
Yes.
it's
You know,
needed.
I
That's
can-
your
I can
starter.
see.
Well, and I mean, in a lot of bourbons,
Yeah. Well, it'll always be there because that's your starter.
right. But what I'm saying
What
is,
are the
it seems like
professionals saying
it's
about this.
getting
How good did we
a
do?
bigger play
yeah.
in a lot of the craft ones.
So
To the Wild Turkey 101, I asked someone to just pour me a glass of
that would be
selection.
me. Yeah.
And I told him I didn't want to know what it was so I could experience a bourbon without expectation. And the Wild Turkey 101 is what I ended up with. I would have never gone into a store and bought that. But,
Really?
yeah, but
I wouldn't have either.
I just associate the Wild Turkey brand with,
Yes.
not a lower label, but a mid-range bourbon. And when I sipped it, I started getting notes of something I couldn't identify, and someone mentioned a pear.
Yeah.
And now I can't not taste that.
That's right,
And
yes.
and it's and as it blooms, it becomes very soft and.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wild turkey is one of our favorites. It really is, and it's
at the price point, it's super hard to beat
it
any
really
of the wild
is.
turkey stuff.
And to be honest, it would be one that if you were to offer that to guests, they would love you because it's definitely that type of a thing.
Yeah, it's that
Well,
soft,
it's-
sweet.
It's definitely not as refined as the E.H. Taylor, though.
That's
in the
correct.
way
That's
it's
right.
put
There is a
together.
difference.
It's the E.H. Taylor's much more blended, put together, and finished
It's more complicated.
Complex.
Yes, it's complicated.
It stacks.
than the turkey.
That's right.
Okay, for the nose on this one. This one from Breaking Bourbon, a review. From the nose, butterscotch, caramel, warm baked multigrain bread, hints of licorice, dried raisins.
Yeah.
On the palate, dried raisins, lightly charred oak, vanilla all up front.
That's almost by default, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. The finish, vanilla, light tobacco, leather, white pepper,
You
and
can see the white pepper, yeah.
and an
That's-
Apricot. Maybe that's what I was picking in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a cherry. It was apricot.
Cherry
Yeah, because it
apricot,
wasn't
yeah.
quite cherry.
I knew it was a fruity on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I was picking up on the finish, but
So-
well, Cajun and Martin seem to have the most developed palates amongst us. Although Robert's pretty daggone good most of the time.
Well,
I am
giving
woke-
up the soft drinks has really made a difference.
Yeah,
I've done a
most
lot.
people would say that doesn't matter, but I tell you what,
It does.
I taste stuff. Getting that super sweet out of your diet.
And you know what?
think
It's
really
the,
helps.
it's really is the dark soft drinks, the
that's right.
Cokes and the Pepsis, because I have not I have gone back to my Michigan roots, and I will have the occasional Verner's or Faygo,
Love the Verners.
and it is. I had I was talking with somebody at when I had blood work done, and I mentioned how I'd given up soft drinks. I forget how it came up. I said, well, I still drink Verner's and Faygo. But I don't really count those in the same category. And she's like, you must be from Michigan. It's like, well, yes, I am.
That was fast.
Well, she was too.
I was
She
going
was
to
from
say
Michigan
that.
as well.
Yeah,
he was fast.
Not only
down the
getting us
rabbit
blood
hole.
work done,
Down the rabbit hole we go again, gentlemen.
but it is amazing, and I really think it is the dark,
Oh,
heavy.
definitely. Yeah, because when I've cut those out, I still drink Frescas, which I've got one here right. As a matter of fact,
How about a Fresca?
Well, now I'm going to
absolutely.
flip you one different on that. Mexican Coca-Cola with real cane sugar,
Yeah.
I have found can actually enhance followed behind bourbon.
That's right.
Don't mix them.
I would believe
but
that.
you-
Yes.
You
I've
know,
used
you
that as a
follow it up
chaser
as
out
a
at your place.
chaser.
Yeah.
And the real cane sugar, the caramel flavor to it can actually enhance
Well,
several
and I
different
think
bourbons.
because it's real, it's not.
It doesn't have high
chemical.
fructose in it.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what kills everything these days.
While we're on bourbon break, I want to do a little bit of a shout out. Copper and King, one of the local craft distilleries.
Yep.
They had a tasting last night at Cox's Liquors out on Bardstown Road at Watterson Trail, not far from here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Eastland Shopping Center. Yeah.
And it, of course, as with all tastings, it's neat.
Right.
And went out there, and I ended up buying a bottle. He said the MSRP is $90. They had it on sale for I think it was $49.
Oh, wow.
Well, the Cox's their regular price was $59, so I'm not entirely sure he had the right MSRP.
Well, Cox's
But
is
still,
usually a good price. Yeah.
yes, they
They're
are
very good. Yeah.
and the bottle was the bourbon was very good. It was one of those ones, like a lot of them when you try them neat, you get a little bit of that harshness up front that takes a little bit of. That's why especially blowing the ethanol off of the glass
Right.
neat is very important. But it was very good, and it's one of those things. It was 111 proof, and it was one of those bourbons that
How to put hair on your nipples?
it will.
Oh, yeah. At neat. Oh, wow.
I had to shave my nipples before I came in today.
There's some things we
and,
shouldn't
Can I watch next
Just
time you
braid
do
'em.
that?
Okay.
skip a bit further.
I need a bullwhip right about now that can reach out.
Yeah. So, but anyways, it was one of those bourbons that I look forward to trying on ice because I think it is one that is going to
What was
bloom.
I missed? What was the brand? What was the
Copper and King.
Copper and King? Okay, that's that's the actual brand. That's not
That is
just,
the-
not
yes.
just the company, but
it's
that's,
fairly widely available. I've seen it in Kroger.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I want to make
Yes.
sure because
And
we've
it
not,
is a
we've
good
not featured
price.
it yet.
Yeah,
no,
we've
we have
not
not.
tried it.
So-
I do have a bottle at home.
I was gonna
It's
say,
one,
next
one of
time-
the 6 unopened bottles I have sitting at the house now.
Well, I'm assuming then the next time that we're at Studio R, this is going to be featured.
Quite possibly, yes. I was thinking about doing a flight like Cajun did.
Cajun has set the bar for that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
was quite good.
Yeah,
Because now there are a couple that I will not open until books are done.
Understand? I've got my Hemingway upstairs that's going to get cracked. when I
I'm
get
saving the
published.
Yellowstone Select for the fiction book, and I think the Knob Creek that was 10 years in the
10
barrel.
year, yeah, that's
At
some
120 proof. I think that I'm going to open up when I publish the.
Oh yeah, that's some serious good
nonfiction.
stuff. Yeah, that's right.
And so there's the Copper and King, the New Monks Road that I just got for me. Cajun already had a bottle, but I picked him up a second bottle.
Now,
Yes,
because
the
it was-
price was very good.
Now,
the price was
which
so
version
good.
of Monk's Road is this? This
Single barrel.
Single barrel.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
that's
not-
what I thought.
If I'm going to try and talk the lady at Kroger's into selling me the 5th District bottle a little cheap because she says she's had it for 2 years and has not sold.
I was going to say it sounds like a deal time.
Yeah, and that's what I said.
right. Let's make-
So I'm hoping to work on that. So let's see, Copper and King, 5th District. Oh, Old Granddad 114.
We've done
Yes,
that
yes.
before. Yes.
I've had
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Maybe
thinking we
Had
have
that
not.
at
Okay.
Studio M.
That's right. You had it. That's right. I know.
I have a bottle of
I know you have a
in
bottle.
the
That's right.
collection, but that hasn't been opened yet.
See, I don't remember having it myself. I don't know that I tasted
You
it.
didn't. I
Okay,
did.
okay.
Bjorn had that
That's right. We did that, and it was
before leaving for the land of
it
the
was-
rising sun.
It was potent. It was
Well-
Oh yeah,
114, yeah.
yeah.
It's-
Talk about
know-
hair on your nipples. Yeah,
Well, an Old Granddad, that's not one you normally think. It's like, what you're talking about, Andre, with the
Paint
the wild
thinner is
turkey.
what I think of.
but no, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, the regular Old Granddad is fine.
Well,
It's,
yeah.
It's still good, solid, inexpensive bourbon, like Very Old Barton.
Well, the
or
interesting thing about the
J.W. Dent, or a few of those.
114 is that they had it on sale. I got it for $25.99.
That's excellent. That's a good price.
So that's the main reason I picked it up. I was like, holy crap.
yeah,
Because
because it is a.
so anyways, the guy there, he talked about the show. He's looking forward to. He's gonna listen.
Okay, cool.
So, and of course, being a guy, we didn't exchange names because we don't think about that. But if he's listening, look forward to reviewing the Copper and Kings on the show next time. Matter of fact, I may take it to Marcus's because we have to take our own bourbon to his place.
This is true.
Well, I'll have some.
Well, I mean, you don't drink, so we don't necessarily have to shell out for all of us. But.
Well, I mean, most of mine I shipped over to my son in the Netherlands. So,
Right.
Well, that's all right.
So-
But
If each of us brought a bottle, we're plenty well taken.
we would.
So is that a smuggling thing, or was it very expensive to get through customs, sending
no,
booze
just
over to him, or
pack
just
it-
bag it and send it?
Pack it in a thing. And
I didn't know what the regulations was for doing something like
it's,
that.
It's perfectly fine. There are special cases so that you can pack it into your luggage. Has to go in the checked bag.
Yeah.
But no, it's wonderful.
So-
and we should say thank you to the lady of the house.
Oh yes, that's right. Her Majesty just arose and brought. And
Hello, Her Majesty.
Yes.
hello,
Oh
Majesty.
no, she's been up since sunrise, hard at work. What are you talking about?
Love you, baby.
So you've got a pile of
Actually, I was thinking
unopened.
about
I have a pile of and the regular Yellowstone.
Yeah.
That's I think the
Yeah.
other one, and I also have a special bourbon coming from Michigan.
Cool.
That is, I normally I don't like to call things made out of state.
I was going to question that.
I was going to say, that's
Legally,
not normal.
it's bourbon.
It's
It is
whiskey.
legally, it's bourbon.
Yeah.
We have to make that.
Yeah.
But as Stephen Fonte said, we all know that 95% of the bourbon is made in Kentucky, and 95% of all the good bourbon is made here. That's
right.
What is legal
100%
is
of
not
all
always
the
Really
right.
good bourbon.
What was that?
What is legal is not always right.
That is true.
And
No,
there's
but
the
there
eternal
are a few
question.
gems out there, though.
There
There are a
are.
few gems
There
coming
are.
from other states. In fact, we tasted several at the Bourbon Festival.
We did,
From
yes.
local
Yeah.
surrounding states.
Yeah, I've got one to taste because I won an auction. For
Oh, that's
bourbon.
right.
And so I've got a pile of unopened bottles, including one OKI reserve that's like supposed to be blended Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana stuff that
Interesting.
we'll try.
Yeah.
Plus a bottle of Russell Rye. And in a recent trip to the Holy Land, I picked up a bottle of Baker's
Oh yeah, which
Acre 7, which is hard to get up here.
we have not tried that. I don't
Really, I think I've seen that in several places.
I think Cajun has a bottle.
Cajun
no,
has
I mean, I think
have
I've seen
one,
that in
yeah.
the stores.
It's starting to show up a little bit. I saw some, but it disappears quickly up here.
Depends on where you're going.
Well,
That's like I shared with you guys a picture of a little haunt that we frequent.
I need to
in the
get there.
family.
yeah,
Because your picture didn't show prices because it
No,
wasn't.
it didn't, because the prices are actually sitting on the top of the shelf.
Yeah, so because I want to see what the prices are in some of those.
Yeah,
I work like 4 blocks from there,
Yeah.
so it's not
Yes,
exactly.
far
I
away.
drive past it every day.
Yeah.
I get and explore little hidden gems throughout the region and the city, and
And I think Andre,
know
I
of
think
a
I'm going to
few.
swing by that liquor store. I'm positive I've been in there. Now it was before we were really scoping out the bourbons like we do now, but I think I'm gonna have to swing by there and see what.
I think
gems
you're going to be there tonight.
I am. I'm going to be. I have to tell Mrs. Robert that we need to make a small detour. Not much of a detour; it's just across the street.
Yeah.
Before we turn to your place. So.
Oh, and my latest bourbon acquisition, a couple of weeks back, me and my uncle, we went down to Peerless
Oh yes.
Distillery and did the
Yes.
tour down there, and I brought back home with their bottle of their rye. I was really impressed with their rye products.
Peerless
it takes
has
a
got
very
some
good
really good
rye
stuff.
to
They do.
impress me.
Yeah,
Yes.
And they also have some excellent single barrel stuff that they pull out that's always different all the time that they
Sure.
bottle it and do down there. And it's the only place you can get it down there. So I was impressed with them and the quality. And
We
especially the rye.
tried their rye and bourbons at Bourbon Fest,
Yes.
didn't we? Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sure we did. Yeah.
We've
well,
not
yeah.
had any on the show, but we've tried it, and I'm anxious to have a real glass of Peerless. And
Yeah. That's one of those ones
try
that have been, you see on the shelves.
Yeah.
It's like, if I didn't already have so many,
Yeah,
and I've really
I
kinda
already
pushed
had
the
a
envelope.
bottle of the Peerless, the wheated,
yeah, the regular one.
but this is a bottle of rye I picked up.
Yeah, Cajun's got so many we haven't even begun.
So
start with.
Cox's, highly recommend if you're in this local area, go to Cox's because
A
one of the
useless
things-
Francis fact. Can you tell me what that building used to be?
Oh,
Oh,
I
A
have no idea.
staple of Louisville area
Francis?
ice cream. Ola's ice cream is what that
Absolutely.
building used to be
Excellent.
sitting there.
That's right.
My grandfather took me in there many a time when I was a child under 10.
Very much so. That was in Earlers for so long. Was
Wow.
when we were driving.
Now you only get Ola's at events like the state fair or conventions where they come out.
Bellarmine Games.
There is, and there's
downtown.
The one left? Okay.
there's
reopened
actually
it.
two.
There's
There's,
two.
there's one at Bardstown Road and
Bardstown
Taylorsville
Road,
Road, but that's a recent thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Main Street.
Yeah.
But it's on Main
Yeah.
Street.
And there's one on Main Street,
right
right? So
at,
they were
Brook.
out of the retail business for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
They were part of only.
My wife was so excited when they opened up the downtown
Delivery
store.
stuff.
Absolutely,
They
they
do
were,
delivery
and
stuff.
they were also involved in a lot of the. You could get them at the at the
Convention
convention
shows
shows
stuff
and
is what
football
they're
games.
getting a lot of.
Yeah.
Because they went kind of in that stealth mode outside of retail, but now they're back, and I mean it's great stuff. I mean, I
it is.
remember.
Oh, yeah.
I remember getting that. It's a Louisville staple that I'm glad never truly went away. And
There was always one on Dixie Highway.
Oh yes, well that's where Sister Beans. Now it's called the Well. I will always refer to it as Sister Beans, but that's what Sister Beans was an Earler's.
Earler's ice cream is really some good stuff.
Yeah,
So,
on New Cut.
Yes, yes.
And,
Yeah.
and then Dixie Highway had
Oh
one.
yes, and Dixie
Right.
Highway. Yes, sorry.
They
was one on
dominated the
Newkirk
ice
by
cream
Iroquois
market back
Park.
in the 70s
Yeah.
when we were all
But
kids.
then later was Vietnam Kitchen, and then Vietnam Kitchen moved.
So, but back to the Coxes because
Yes.
I want to point out they had to stop.
I didn't say a word.
I know.
Your mind is as bad as mine sometime now.
Yeah,
Don't try to deny it.
well, look at the people I hang out with. It's
Okay, you got a point there.
they had a bottle of not the Wilderness Trail, Town Branch.
Yes, there's a bottle of that
Out of Lexington.
Yes.
unopened at my place as well.
The Town Branch was $30.
That's a good price on it.
I damn near picked that bottle up.
Because it's usually 36 to 38. Kind
Yes,
of that
it's-
same price point as Yellowstone.
Yes.
we
They had
have featured that before. Haven't
a bottle of Town Branch.
we haven't. Okay.
We've not opened my bottle of Town Branch, and
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking about when you bought it, you talked about it. but
I
don't
know
think
I've
we-
had it. I can't remember if we had it at your place one time or not.
No,
No.
not Tom
I
Brown.
don't think
I've
so.
never
kind of
picked up
sworn I've
Tom
had
Branch.
it, but
So
it's one of those
many we
ones that I've looked at many times and wanted to get. They had a bottle of the Long Branch.
Oh, which is very excellent. Yes,
I want to say that was at $40. $200.
That's a little high for that one.
And that is a wild turkey product.
And that
too.
is a wild
People
turkey.
don't
And it's kind of
know
in
that.
it's in the zone, but it's maybe a touch.
That is the Matthew McConaughey.
He's the one. That's
Symbol
correct.
brand, Long Branch, his personal.
Yeah, he's got his signature on that, and we've tried it. I think I tried it
Yes.
first out at your place.
Yes.
I'm very high on it. Yeah,
Yes, that was a fairly sweet bourbon.
it
For
was.
the proof of it, yes.
Yes.
Does it, who of us has it besides Cajun? Doesn't somebody else? Didn't
I had a bottle. I finished it, but I had
Well,
a bottle.
hey, that's hey,
It's gone now.
it's a badge of honor.
So is
To be
mine.
able to finish off. That's right. Well, it's kind of one of my next purchases. That's what's one of my intentions is to have that on hand because
All right, you monkeys. I'm taking the football away. And
Yeah,
if
that's
you can't figure that out, we'll probably be wrapping this break up, don't you say, and back to the rush.
we
We
went
probably should.
long.
I do want to ask one question though of Brother Andre, since he's not really been part of all of the other bourbons. What's your go-to bourbon?
It depends on what's on the shelf at the time, but
Well, certainly, yes.
if you were to buy one and you say I'm going to buy my perfect one that I want to buy,
Woodford.
yeah, it's
Woodford
good.
is just a good that's not
Regular
every day.
Woodford, the double oak. The
I have a double oak that I haven't opened yet because of recommendations I heard here,
Right.
and I want to save it for a special occasion with special people. to
So
try
we'll be
it.
cracking that tonight.
Sure.
That'd be pretty good, yeah. Because you've given me 2 signed Woodfords. They're upstairs and they're uncracked, and they plan on staying that way.
Those bottles we got for the Kentucky. They were the Kentucky Derby anniversary bottles. They were signed by the old distiller, the new distiller, and the artist that designed the label.
Yeah,
Oh, very nice.
And
Nice.
we have 2 of those at the house as well, and those shall remain uncracked.
exactly. That's one of the things. Along
So
with
if you have access coming back around again, you know you have to pick up more bottles this time if you want to come back, huh?
Well, it took an act of Congress to get that many because they were sold a limit of one
Oh, yeah.
or 2
It's,
per.
uh,
That's
we
why you
were-
take
purchase.
multiple people.
we were highly grateful to get.
We
be
bought
gifted
it,
those.
took it out to the car, got back in the line, and did that 6 times.
There you go.
Yeah.
And luckily, we're able to get all the purchases.
And
made.
you have to let us know when it happens so we can all come tromping in as
Absolutely.
a troop of gorillas, I guess.
I really should have brought that down so we can kind of ooh and ah on all that. Maybe we'll
Well,
do
if you
a
bring it
future
down, it's
episode.
going to get opened.
This does remind me for when Pappy gets distributed at the different stores with all the lotteries.
Yeah.
We need to split up or show up in groups.
Which should be happening sometime in the next few weeks here.
Exactly.
Yes.
We need to get together so we can improve our odds.
Yeah, there are a couple of local charities. Center for Courageous Kids. My daughter volunteered there several summers, and so did the
raffles.
the Prince. They are doing a $250 a ticket raffle. 6 different bottles of Van Winkle. A couple of the Pappies, and of course the Rip.
And you know it's a
Full
great
Light.
fundraiser because
Supposedly-
people will pay it.
Supposedly the bottles have a value of $15,000.
Yes.
Now I'm not going to spend the $250.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm joking too, Andre.
But if I were to win, as much as I would love to keep a bottle of, I'd sell those SOPs.
Yeah.
You know how many other bottles you could
Bottle
buy?
of Pappy, $15,000. I think I can tell you which way I'm going to.
Exactly.
Oh, and can you figure out what I'm going to do with it?
Pays a lot of bills.
It's getting opened.
Well,
you,
as
man.
long as we get to be there when that happens, because it happens. Although I will say, when at your former pastor has some of that on hand, and your first time at his place, you get one. I've gotten it twice, so I must really be on his good list.
Either that or you just didn't remember the first time.
Well, I'll take whichever way it goes. But
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to have to remind him, don't give Francis any more of the Pappies. He's already had it twice.
all right, that's right. I've outed myself. I probably shouldn't have
Well,
done that.
depends on the particular.
I was gonna say for the right
thing,
reasons, that's
there
right.
There are a number of different styles of Pappy.
Yes, I've heard people say that the 18 is better than the 23.
No.
No.
I've heard that opinion from several people.
Interesting.
I can't say one way or the other because I've never had the chance to
Have you
compare them.
have you ever heard the saying that opinions are sort of like buttholes?
You can say
Everybody's
asshole.
got
You can say
one.
asshole.
Everyone has one, and most of them stink.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very true. All right, so
No,
anyway,
Well, anyway, we're back and wrapping this break up because we probably just about enough time to hit Alaska and then kind of pulling it all together,
I
don't
think
we?
you're exactly right. Yeah, let's pull
Agent,
this.
can I ask you for a favor before
Yes.
you herd the monkeys? Would you grab my cane from behind you there?
Which end of it do you want?
Yeah. Oh, dang, it's inspired. Yes, for whatever reason, Martin has decided he's old, so he has to carry.
he is old.
We're all old. Come on now.
I'm officially This is official
Decrepit.
from my doctors.
Doctor's orders.
From my neurologist, I am supposed to officially use a cane or a walking stick from now on.
All right. See there, you have a medical reason.
Yeah.
Martin just does it because he's cool.
Well, Martin has his ailments.
Yeah.
And I've had both knees replaced already, and it does benefit me to use one. Quite often as we get into this time of the year and the temperature's cooling down, I do feel it and become a little more unbalanced.
Yes,
I know I'm already unbalanced, fellas. You don't have to add
That's
that
a whole
to it,
different
but
thing.
I admit it freely.
Yes.
Well-
and my doctor says I probably will avoid surgery. So
and that's a good thing.
I want to say, Andre, aren't you scheduled to have knee replacements?
I have a consultation this Thursday for knee replacement at the beginning of the
I
year.
was going to say, because you're going to do it in January. Now, you're going to do both of them, right?
No, the reason I'm doing January is Mrs. Andre has to have a knee replacement also, so we're trying to plan them for the same calendar year.
Yeah, to maximize
Right, to
that.
maximize
stuff.
your-
Well,
Maximize
I'm
insurance.
going to give you a little short on this. I've had both mine done. I had them both at the same time. Now, that
And-
is
and
not
he
as
runs a
bad
farm.
as you think, because it's like my doctor explained to me when I had mine done. You got good health. You're basically healthy, good heart, so forth. You're in the hospital for the first 4 days or so anyway. By the time that 7th day rolls around, you're moving at the same speed or whether you had 1 or 2 done at the same time. And it was true, and I only had to rehab 1 time that way.
I can tell that it's been a while since you've had it done. My wife had a hip replacement done last year. She went into the operating room at 9 in the morning. At 1:38 in the afternoon, we're walking up the stairs at our home. It's an outpatient surgery.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that something? That's
Well,
how
now,
things have changed.
I was
Act-
at
About 6 years ago, I think now.
wonderful, playground yesterday.
Right, you were talking about that.
Yes, and Marcus was there with his granddaughter. He was not just hanging out at the playground.
I was
He's not
there
being
with
creepy.
my granddaughter. I wasn't just stalking.
Did he
single
have the
moms.
van?
The white van.
It's
the
not
van.
white, but yes, it does have
But,
windows.
the milk duds are melting in his
There,
pocket.
there was a woman there that I introduced myself to, was talking to her, and she had her hip replacement done 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And was
Wow.
walking around with her grandkid at the park, at the
Wow.
playground.
Really?
Wow.
And this playground, for those, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I sent it to you guys.
We have a blog at www.snakesandotters.com
That's right. That's what you
that
supposed
someone could make a post on and put some pictures of.
That we will.
A very an
Corydon,
accessible
Corydon,
playground.
Indiana now is home to the country's largest fully accessible playground. And it's also the largest playground of any type in the state of Indiana. They spent a total of $2 million, but on this particular playground,
That's actually pretty cheap.
this particular playground was a little over $1.5 million. They did an additional 2.
The Possibility
throughout the county.
Playground in Corydon.
Possibility Playground in Corydon.
There you go.
And
looked at
I was introduced or met a gentleman there by the name of Josh, who has a son who's in a wheelchair, and he was the person pushing the whole deal. And I talked to him for a while. The playground was designed specifically to be fully accessible for kids in wheelchairs with whatever physical disability.
Amen.
For the blind, special things for the blind.
Oh, very nice.
Special things for the autistic.
That's impressive.
And it is huge. I did a video walkthrough of it, just going from one end to the other. And then down
Again, he was there with his granddaughter.
I was there with
people.
my granddaughter, and then just a quick walk down the wheelchair ramp that goes through all of these things. There's a wheelchair kind of runway.
There are
It goes
times when
through
I
it all.
lose my faith in humanity.
2
This kind of
minutes,
restores it a little
2
bit.
minutes and 46 seconds of video with no pausing, just a quick walkthrough to see everything.
You could also post that to the Snakes and Otters YouTube channel.
I will. It is absolutely amazing and beautiful. And I would have killed as a child to have this.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the features
Although-
are over 3 stories high.
Nothing
awesome.
beats the stuff that we played on. no padding, no rails. Everything's rusted. Where you
The merry-go-round of death.
the merry-go-round of
Satan's
death.
tongue slide.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
300 degrees.
The monkey bars over the gravel. That,
Oh, you liked the monkey bars, didn't you?
absolutely, yes, I did.
You had no use for them after a certain point,
Well, that's
though.
right. Second grade, tried to jump to the third bar and fell and broke both arms. Yeah,
Both arms?
both arms, same time.
Same time.
That's right. Yeah,
I gotta say that is an impressive feat to do both.
I would
arms.
like to think so too. Yeah. In fact, where I have my arthritis in my left hand is exactly where the break.
Oh
was.
yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So I don't have it anywhere else, but they told me, yep, that's where you did it. That's where it's at.
Cajun, I think you had the right idea though, because we've been on this bourbon break the bourbon break actually ended.
I mean, basically, it's probably about time to start winding this one up.
There are a couple of things that
go
you
to
point out. We need to
Alaska.
talk about Alaska, but also there's some things I want to talk about overall that I think is important to talk about. But let's talk about Alaska.
And that's usually your main wrap-up anyway.
It's not always the
hammer.
wrap up, but
No,
I am good at that.
Let him hammer. That's right. But let's talk about Alaska. I really
Yeah,
do
let's
wanna
get
talk-
Alaska in here because when we were talking about the commerce part, it really exploded because this was way out there. I mean, the trains of supply to come in up that way, they just drove and inflated prices outrageously.
Well, Alaska was worthless up to this point.
Seward's
folly, absolutely. And it was kind of like, what did we do? And yet it's turned out to be one of the best investments we've had, I think, in many respects.
Who knew that the oil was there? But I mean, at the time, the biggest investment would have been seen for the timber.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's there's something wild and untamed about that space. Still, I've not been there, but I know many who
is.
have.
Well,
And-
and that's a
Beautiful.
great
I've-
point.
I've
Wild
been
and
there a few
untamed.
times.
yeah.
But it's so limited on the time period of the year at that point that you could actually work there. I mean, and
Oh,
get
yeah.
stuff done, getting the timber out,
3
getting the
months,
gold out.
4 months?
3 months max. I mean,
Yeah.
4, usually 4 if it's extremely odd year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything for that, you brought it through via ship
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Seattle. That was the launching point for everything that went up into Alaska
Yeah.
for the gold
Juneau
rush.
and Anchorage. Well, I mean, Anchorage is called Anchorage
Exactly.
because
But
that's where you anchored.
The fun thing is, in Seattle, the national park system's smallest national park is in downtown Seattle in Pioneer Square, which is Pioneer Square is the old place in Seattle, and it is the Klondike Gold Rush Museum for that whole thing.
Preach it, brother.
And wonderful national
I
park.
do like a good Klondike bar.
And we had all the
What would you do
outfitters
for
and
a
stuff come
Klondike
through
bar?
Seattle.
Wouldn't you like to know?
They were all there,
Yeah.
and it was a huge endeavor. You're talking about these individuals to just go up to Alaska and bring all the equipment, buy all their equipment in Seattle, take it up.
Right.
It was a huge investment. The amount of money they were risking to go up, to risk their lives on something that they had no idea whether or not they were going to strike it rich.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point because the financial risk to start in
was
Alaska
huge.
Yeah,
was
you had to-
far bigger than anywhere else,
Yes.
any of the other American gold rushes.
And there's a moment in the movie Wyatt Earp at the very end, which I know you guys are not huge fans of it, but I really loved Kevin Costner's version. Occasionally, I think you really do like it, where Wyatt Earp never really succeeded in much of anything in his life. He was constantly running from different point to different point, and he and his wife. At the end of the movie, that's where they're going is Alaska because they don't really have anything to speak of. And they're chasing that next new dream, that next new thing, like so many. And they're on the ship, and Josie says to him, "Where's our gold, Wyatt?" And she goes, "It's right out there."
Well,
And that's kind of that whole attitude and that whole approach of those pioneers that did this. They were willing to risk so much on an enormous
Death.
startup. Yeah, that's correct. Because this is not like California where, you can just, which was...
Well,
had
that
its-
was an arduous journey too,
was
but
a
not
big
to
one,
this
too.
scale.
to get there, but the environment itself was pretty hospitable when you got there. This place here will kill you in the wintertime very, very quickly.
Oh, it'll kill you during the summertime.
sure, that's
The
right.
animals
wildlife
and
will
what
kill
have
you during
yeah.
the non-winter.
Well, that's right. I'm not even going to talk about grizzly bears.
That's
But I think the risk that you're describing would describe any of the gold rushes that we're talking about,
Yes.
either in America, British Columbia, South America. It is the people seeking to better their lives that fuel any of these gold rushes.
Actually, I would dispute some of that, because that's some of the commentary that I wanted to make kind of to wrap some of this up. The gold rushes that happened within the continental U.S. borders, which technically you can count Alaska because it's part of the American continent, is a bit different than almost every other gold rush that you will see.
In what way?
Because if you think about everything that went on in South America, where it started, are driven by European heads of states.
Okay.
All right. When you think about prior to the founding of this country, everything like that would have been driven by the monarchs. They were state driven.
Okay, I said corrected.
everything
had to be with the cost. The
Well, and
initial
partially
investment
that
for
was
it.
the cost. But when you get to the United States, the founding of this country, almost all of the gold rushes are driven by individuals. It is very much in the nature of the American psyche. It is an American thing. The
American
individual is
dream.
going to go off and seek, to search, to find, to not just get rich, but it's part of that drive
to better oneself.
to better oneself, either financially or personally, to explore, to seek something better than what we have.
I mean,
Boldly go where no one has gone before.
To coin a phrase.
And Alaska really emphasizes
Yes,
that.
Alaska is probably the epitome of
Alaska
that.
is the opposite to Texas on the southern side of the states. I mean, one extreme to the attitude, those people's attitudes is what I'm saying. Alaskan people and the people that went up there and settled down, amazing people, self-reliant, self-sufficient. And let's not forget about the diphtheria outbreak around 1925, was it, I think? And the 170-mile run on dog sled to get vaccine to people out there.
Oh, the story of Balto. And
The start of the Iditarod, yes.
right.
The Alaskan gold rush is the epitome of rugged individualism.
Oh, yeah, even more so than the other. And it's really interesting how you talked about, Robert, how this is attitudinally different. I remember we've talked about it. I know not all you guys have seen it, but I know Cajun has the Taylor Sheridan miniseries with Sam Elliott, 1883.
Yes.
And
I've started it, but I've not finished
it's magnificent. It really is. And it literally lays it out so clearly, because Sam Elliott they have to lead a group of Europeans from
Germans
primarily,
Germans, yes.
and there's only one that speaks the language, and they from there, and essentially they're going to Oregon, and most of them, of course, die. We've talked about this on the show before, but they clearly explain to them and says we couldn't do this. The reason we don't know how to do it is we weren't allowed to learn these things.
Right. They weren't allowed to
They
have
didn't know how to hunt, to fish, to do anything. They couldn't go pick wood in the forest because it belonged to the monarchy.
That's right, and it lays out so
duke,
clearly. I don't want to say that, maybe I will say it, the evils of feudalism, and the fact that the American experiment was definitely a reaction to that, to the betterment of all of us as humanity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Here,
And let's
sir.
not forget
Here.
Bass Reeves coming up here very soon.
Absolutely.
yes, very much
Also
looking
by
forward
I'm
to
looking
Sheridan.
forward to that. Yeah, Taylor Sheridan does some really great stuff. Even though Yellowstone is about to end, unfortunately, no telling when it's actually going to happen. But I know that Andre over here is a big fan.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
It's not going to completely end. It's just going to go on to another format,
Well, I mean,
which he's very well at doing. When one closes, he starts another chapter.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, 1923 is one of the best. That first
Well,
season.
it's like 1883. The exec said, when do we start season 2? And y'all didn't renew season 2. I've just killed everybody off, basically. There is no season 2.
Dude, I haven't
right.
finished watching that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's meant
pivot.
to be. It's meant to be
Spoiler
one
alert.
story. Yeah, it's meant to be one story, 1883. But 1923 is going to be 2 seasons, and that's it. And Bass Reeves, I don't know. Has he said if it's going to be?
Has
one?
not said one way or the other.
Has-
we didn't hear anything down at the Yellowstone affair.
No. So
it's like
one
the
of the writers
Because
American
it
version of Game of
airs
Thrones?
just here in a few.
What was that, Marcus?
The American version of Game of Thrones. Everybody dies.
In a
off at
sense,
the
the
end.
American West, yeah.
Well, in a sense, yeah. Only it's not
No dragons.
which house gets to rule all as much as it is which individual carves out the biggest piece.
Who preserves their in Yellowstone? It's about preserving the family's legacy and the lengths they'll go to do that. I mean, we're big fans
You know, it's interesting. I started watching
Not
Yellowstone.
only the family's legacy, but the legacy of the land itself too.
Well, and
You're
yeah,
absolutely
and that's where kind of I was going to go with it, because when you watch the first parts of first season of Yellowstone, when you start really thinking about it, you don't really know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Though that's Taylor Sheridan, isn't it?
Because
The good and the bad are a matter of perception.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
two sides
right.
of the same coin sometimes.
And everybody makes sense with their motivations. I mean, you know why John Dutton does what he does. You know what his daughter does. You know what his sons do, and it explores all along. And of course, it expands as things are revealed and tensions escalate, and you understand why they believe. It's a classic study of motivations, and folks, that's good storytelling.
She doesn't realize that she can't post her face online, right?
Oh, that's I don't know what.
I need plausible deniability.
We are in secret.
well,
She doesn't have a Facebook
That's for the
page.
scrapbook.
That's right, exactly.
we
It's
could-
for us to share. It's
I was going to say
my-
we
my-
didn't bring our baklavas.
No, my dear wife is taking pictures of us sitting here recording all this. So
well, you know, it's nice to have that though, just
Good
for our
for her.
personal.
I know for our own
collection.
personal collection. That's right, because
We just never think about that.
You never know when you need an alibi.
Well, that too.
yeah.
You know that's a great point.
that's
a
very
great
good.
point.
That's very good.
But you know,
And
back to-
technically, we're not all in secret.
that's true.
I actually post links, and everybody, you hear my voice, you know who I am.
That's true.
well,
No
I mean,
secret to me.
if you know any of us, you probably are
You
going
know,
to.
We figure it out.
Well, and Andre's first question is when he first heard, he says, "Who's Cajun?" I said, "Well, let me tell you." So,
That's a long story.
It was very because you were very distinct in your voice.
We
Yes.
Cajun. We need and
God
Marcus.
is my witness. I would have swore you grew up in Louisiana.
That's right.
That's
we
what
talked
everybody
about that.
says,
That's
yeah.
right.
It blends in perfect from Lake Charles, Louisiana, over going across the I-10 corridor in the Texas border.
Wow.
You guys really need to get your bios together so we can put them on the blog as well. But you know,
I haven't even looked at the blog, to be fair.
Well, I was gonna say, you don't realize that you're Roy Orbison. I mean, come on, of the band. I mean, which I thought was.
I have looked at it, and I have read quite a bit of it.
That's right,
Okay,
Robert
I'll
with
have
his
to do this.
luxurious hair. Come on, guys, it's a very great.
a little short at the moment, but
You can Google me, Andre Bissett. You'll find all kinds of
Absolutely,
wonders.
that's right.
but you know, I think that because I know we really should wrap it because we're an hour and 15 minutes here, so we're pretty much right at our limit.
Right. Yeah.
But and you know, there's a lot of evil that obviously did come out of all of these gold rushes because the things we did to the people who were there. But
Well,
on the
what
other
we did
hand,
to the
it's-
environment.
and to the
Well, we
yes,
didn't
some
even-
of the gold
we
mining
didn't even
is
begin to
very,
get
very,
just barely.
Oh,
touched on
and
that.
we've got much more to get back to with the Manifest Destiny lineup coming into the
absolutely.
West.
Yeah, I'm glad you
yet.
mentioned that.
I mean,
This is kind of
really,
an ongoing
we did
series.
kind of, well, we had a guest today and so forth, and branched off into various things. So,
But
I mean, it's expected.
But the
Yeah.
gold rushes really are part of that manifest destiny.
Very much so.
It is.
It's kind of it explains motivations again, which we've been talking about.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's-
that whole idea of we were meant and ordained by God to tame this continent from sea to shining sea goes a long way towards this. And whether you want to call that good or bad, you know, that's
it's reality.
you know,
that's for
historians will debate that for a long time.
We need to
But-
add another sound effect to the board.
What's that?
For a speech like that, we need an eagle screech for the background.
Oh, very nice.
yeah.
Very nice.
America.
Oh,
hell
well,
yeah.
you better wrap us up here. And what's
Well-
your final thoughts there, Mr. Hammer?
Well, you know, maybe not so much of a summation. But just I think that you know the gold rushes to me are a fascinating thing, not just because of the great individual stories that come out of it, because there are some great ones.
Yeah.
You know, certainly it's fodder for a lot of American folk legend and lore, but to me, it's one of those things that is just such the epitome of optimism and hope
Yes.
that is so much the American character.
It's about human capital more than the mineral capital, because
Well-
that's what really makes California what it is.
I think
is-
ultimately the
is
result
human
is
capital.
yeah.
Still called the Golden State.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
moves there and turns it into
You know,
this.
for all our
I mean, they went
criticism
there-
of it politically and in many
Yeah.
things, it still is a shining city on the hill.
Well, regardless of how much gold fever occurred and how much greed was happening, it is still a prime example of the American people reaching and motivating to better themselves, to reach something better, and improve their situation for themselves and their families.
their reach should exceed their
And
grasp.
that is always messy. And,
It is.
and I will grant you that. And there are always issues that come out of that. But That's true everywhere.
Growth is always messy.
It is.
Yeah, it's an evolution. It's Darwinism in many
And
respects.
it's not always
change and evolution.
Done with moral means, unfortunately. But it's one of those things that spirit is such a quintessential American thing.
Moral obligations in the law always follow. It catches up.
They do.
We
yes.
get there and we catch up. And again, we stress that there were people in California who understood that right from the beginning, who knew that, yes, okay, people are getting rich here, but what would really make this, the thing, what really makes California important is they really did right from the ground, right from the start, sit down, have a constitutional convention, think through what they wanted to be as a state, and they wanted to make a statement of, we want to enter the Union as a free state. And so there's a lot to that. That's again that it can be that expansion doesn't have to be horrible. It can be done in such a way that guarantees the liberty of the individual.
Obviously,
Well said, Martin.
That's true. It can. It probably almost never is, and certainly even with California, I'm sure that, I can say
I mean,
it's not done.
There's
100%
always pain with growth.
Yeah, they displaced the natives, no question, they did, and there was environmental damage, but they tried in their moment. They were trying to build a better place.
Yeah, and I think that is.
And it's completely stolen from the Mexicans. I'll grant you that.
However, I mean,
The
every
Mexican
place
or the
was
Spanish? The Spanish really had more control over California than the Mexicans.
That is true.
Well, it was Mexican territory at the time of the Mexican War.
It was, but
And
it had Santa Anna essentially stole it from
Spain.
the Spanish.
From
That's
Spain,
correct.
yeah.
And if
well,
you
who
wanna-
stole it from the Aztecs?
well, that's correct. I mean,
It's more Castile control than it was Mexican for most of the time.
that's correct. It was highly Spanish, more so
But-
than the.
And
The point is,
Catholic.
though,
Zorro, come on, people, go back to your childhood.
I was going to go there. I mean, come on.
I beat him. I
I
beat
know.
him.
Yes, that's.
but the point is, though, every place has been stolen from somebody
Somebody, yeah.
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yes.
And that's not something that
Even
should
the
go-
Womans
Yes. Well, Romans stole all of Europe
from the
somebody.
Etruscans and,
That's right. Well, as empires go, this was the big.
It was the
That's
big
right.
one,
That's
yes.
right. All
So
right.
technically, British Empire was bigger
Well, that's true.
in its
that's
entirety
The
when
sun
it's
never
full
sets.
size.
Sun never set. That's right.
The sun never sets.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, we've really.
Pummeled the expired.
I think we got to hear what's coming up next over
That's
here.
what Code of Honor, guys. We're going to do Code of Honor next time, and I've already sent this out to the masses so they can kind of work on it. We've got a great quotation from Voltaire, one of my favorite guys, and he's got my God, the man wrote 20,000 letters and 2,000 books, so we got great stuff to choose from. So come back and we'll get a little prickly and we'll get a little deep.
what?
A
Prick?
little what?
God, I swear I can't even give
may
us
have
a
a little
great
prick, but-
Oh my goodness.
smite him situation.
Where's that
Very
whip?
Awfully. That's right. Come on, Cajun. Don't you have that whip? Thank you. Let's look at one of those.
We definitely need to add some special effects. Wait a minute. I guess we could always do this. Oh,
Wrong
spot
one.
on.
Wrong one.
Man.
You tickled the wrong button now. You
Go ahead and do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. There we go.
Thank you. That's right. That's right. Or the agonizer actually is one we should have used, but that's okay.
Well, no, I did that 'cause
a
hopefully it'd kill
gunshot, a snap of the whip, right now,
Works.
probably did Manifest Destiny time would work
true.
really well.
All right. Join us next episode, folks. It's going to be great.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time. Same snake time, same otter channel.